I never thought I'd need someone to teach me how to exist in my own skin. At 34, I'd built everything I was supposed to build. Senior partner at the firm. Corner office with windows that overlooked the harbor. A portfolio that made other attorneys envious. I knew how to negotiate. I knew how to win. I knew how to make opposing counsel regret ever stepping into a conference room with me. What I didn't know was how to stop Rebecca's face from appearing every time I closed my eyes. 3 months since she walked out. 3 months of telling myself I was fine. That I'd always been fine. That I preferred being alone anyway. Preferred the clean lines of my apartment, the silence, the control. My assistant, Jordan, was the one who finally said something. We were in my office late on a Thursday, preparing for a deposition, and I'd snapped at him for the 3rd time over something trivial. He'd just stood there, arms crossed, studying me with that unflappable expression he'd perfected over 5 years of working together. "You need help," he said simply. "I'm handling it." "You're not sleeping. You've lost weight. Yesterday, you called the judge by the wrong name." He paused. "That's not handling it." I wanted to argue. Instead, I found myself staring at my hands, wondering when they'd started to shake. That's how I ended up with Claire's name written on a post-it note stuck to my laptop. Jordan had a friend who'd worked with her. Some kind of coach. Not therapy. I'd tried that twice and spent both sessions explaining why I didn't need to be there. This was different, he insisted. Practical. Results-oriented. I looked her up that night. Her website was minimalist. No stock photos of sunsets or mountains, no inspirational quotes in cursive fonts. Just a black and white photograph of a woman with short dark hair, sharp cheekbones, and eyes that seemed to look directly through the screen into whatever I was pretending not to feel. Claire Donovan. Executive presence and confidence coaching. I closed my laptop. Opened it again. Read the same 3 paragraphs about her approach. Something about embodiment, authenticity, presence. Words that usually made me roll my eyes. But Rebecca's voice was in my head. "You're so defended, Vivian. Like a fortress with no door." I sent the email before I could overthink it. Her response came within an hour. Professional. Warm without being effusive. We scheduled a consultation for the following Tuesday at her studio downtown. The building was old brick, tucked between a bookstore and a vintage clothing shop. Not the sort of place I usually found myself. I climbed 3 flights of stairs, each step feeling like a small surrender. The studio was a single large room with hardwood floors and tall windows. No desk. No couch. Just open space, some floor cushions in one corner, and her. She stood when I entered, extending her hand. Her grip was firm, steady. She was taller than I'd expected from the photo, maybe 5'10", with an economy of movement that suggested either dance training or martial arts. She wore simple black pants and a gray sweater, no jewelry except a silver watch. "Vivian," she said. Not a question. Her voice was lower than I'd anticipated, textured. "Yes, I'm Claire. Thanks for coming." We stood there for a moment. I had the distinct sensation of being observed, not in a judgmental way, but with genuine curiosity. It made me want to look away. I didn't. "Would you like water? Tea? I'm fine." She smiled slightly. "Of course you are." Something in her tone, not mocking, but knowing, made heat rise to my face. We sat on cushions near the window. I arranged myself carefully, legs crossed, spine straight. "My armor." "Tell me why you're here," she said. I'd prepared an answer. Something about wanting to improve my executive presence, to enhance my professional effectiveness. The words felt rehearsed even in my head. Instead, I heard myself say, "My girlfriend left me, and I can't remember how to breathe properly." Claire didn't react with surprise or sympathy. She just nodded slowly, as if I'd confirmed something she already knew. "How long ago?" 93 days. "You're counting." "I count everything." "Why did she leave?" I looked out the window. A pigeon was perched on the fire escape across the street, preening its feathers with systematic precision. She said I was absent even when I was present. She said loving me was like trying to hold water. Was she right? The question landed somewhere in my chest. I wanted to defend myself, to explain that I'd tried, that I'd been devoted in my own way. But Claire was watching me with those dark eyes, and I couldn't find the energy for dishonesty. Yes. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, this work we might do together, it's not about getting her back. Or getting someone new. It's about finding what's true underneath all the strategies you've built to keep yourself safe. Are you ready for that? I don't know what I'm ready for. That's honest. We can start there. We talked for another 40 minutes. She explained her approach, twice-weekly sessions, a combination of what she called somatic work and practical exercises. She'd push me. I'd probably hate parts of it. But if I was willing to trust the process, something might shift. I agreed without fully understanding what I was agreeing to. As I stood to leave, she touched my shoulder lightly. Just a brief contact, her hand there and then gone. You're brave for coming here, Vivian. I didn't feel brave. I felt like I was stepping off a cliff. Our first real session was that Friday afternoon. I arrived precisely on time, wearing one of my work suits. Claire met me at the door in loose linen pants and a white tank top. Barefoot. I tried not to notice the definition in her shoulders. Lose the jacket, she said immediately. Excuse me. And the heels. We're going to move today. I'm not really a movement person. She smiled. I know. That's why we're starting there. Reluctantly, I removed my jacket and heels, standing in stockinged feet on her studio floor. I felt exposed. Ridiculous. How does it feel? She asked. Uncomfortable. Good. Stay with that. She walked slowly around me, not touching, just observing. You hold yourself like you're expecting an attack. Shoulders up, jaw tight, breath shallow. How long have you been standing guard? I'm a litigator. Vigilance is part of the job. This isn't the courtroom. There's no opposing counsel here. No judge. Just you and me. She demonstrated a simple exercise, rolling my shoulders back, dropping my weight into my feet, lengthening my spine without rigidity. It seemed absurdly basic. But when I tried it, mimicking her movements, something strange happened. My breath deepened automatically. A small release of tension I hadn't known I was holding. There, Claire said quietly. That's closer to home. We worked for an hour. She'd have me stand, sit, walk across the room with different intentions. Notice where I collapsed or tightened. Each time I started to retreat into my head, analyzing or judging, she'd bring me back with a simple question. What do you feel right now? Mostly, I felt irritated. This wasn't what I'd expected. I wanted strategies, techniques. Instead, she was asking me to inhabit my body as if it were some foreign territory I'd abandoned years ago. By the end, I was sweating slightly, frustrated, oddly exhilarated. Same time Tuesday? Claire asked as I gathered my things. Yes. She walked me to the door. In the threshold, she stopped me with a hand on my arm. You did well today. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you showed up. That's everything. The spot where she'd touched me stayed warm all the way home. The sessions developed a rhythm. Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 p.m., 90 minutes. I'd arrive wound tight from work, still wearing my professional persona like plate armor. Claire would systematically dismantle it. She never let me hide in conversation. If I started intellectualizing, she'd stop me. That's a thought. What's the feeling underneath it? If I deflected with humor, notice the impulse to make me laugh instead of letting yourself be seen. If I went blank, you're leaving. Come back. It was maddening. She was maddening. And I started to crave it. The third week, she introduced partner work. We stood facing each other, maintaining eye contact while she guided me through breathing exercises. Her gaze was steady, unflinching. I wanted to look away every 3 seconds. What happens when someone really sees you, Vivian? Nothing. I'm fine with it. Your body says otherwise. Your breath just stopped. Your shoulders just armored up. Maybe I just don't like being scrutinized. This isn't scrutiny. This is witnessing. She stepped slightly closer. There's a difference. We were maybe 2 feet apart. I could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes, the small scar at her left temple. She smelled like cedar and something else, something clean I couldn't name. Keep breathing, she murmured. I realized I'd stopped again. That night, I lay in bed replaying the session. The way she looked at me, the timbre of her voice when she said witnessed, the heat that had flooded through me when she stepped closer. This was professional, I told myself. She was my coach. These feelings were just transference, a predictable response to someone paying such focused attention. I didn't believe my own arguments. For weeks in, Claire changed tactics. We're going to try something different today, she said as I arrived for Tuesday's session. A trust exercise. Immediately, my defenses activated. What kind of trust exercise? I'm going to stand behind you. You're going to let yourself fall backward, and I'll catch you. Absolutely not. She smiled. Why not? Because I struggled for words. It's juvenile. Like a team-building workshop. It's vulnerable. That's different from juvenile. I don't see the point. The point is that you don't trust easily. Not others, not yourself. We're going to practice. She moved behind me, her voice close to my ear. I've got you. I promise. Just lean back. My entire body was rigid. This was absurd. I was a grown woman, not some insecure teenager who needed to play trust games. But Claire was waiting, patient, and immovable behind me. I closed my eyes, tried to relax my shoulders, shifted my weight backward maybe half an inch. More, she said gently. I am. You're barely moving. Let go, Vivian. I don't know how. The admission surprised us both. Her hands came to my shoulders, warm and grounding. Yes, you do. You've just forgotten. Try again. I'm right here. I took a breath. Another. Then I let myself tip backward. Claire caught me easily, her arms solid beneath my shoulder blades. For a second, I was suspended there, held completely by someone else's strength. She helped me upright. Again. We repeated it 5 times. Each time, I fell a little faster, trusted a little more. By the last one, my eyes were closed and something in my chest had loosened, some ancient knot beginning to unwind. When we finished, I turned to face her. She was slightly flushed, breathing a bit harder. How was that? She asked. Terrifying. What else? I met her gaze. Necessary. Something flickered across her face, recognition, maybe, or satisfaction. Yeah, it was. We stood very still. The studio was quiet except for the distant sound of traffic below. Her hand was still on my shoulder from catching me the last time. Neither of us moved to break the contact. Claire, I started, not knowing what I intended to say. She stepped back, creating distance. Professional distance. Let's take a water break. The moment dissolved, but it left something behind. A charge in the air. An acknowledgement of something neither of us was ready to name. Over the next 2 weeks, I became increasingly aware of Claire in ways that had nothing to do with coaching. The way she moved through the studio, graceful and economical. The small furrow between her brows when she was thinking. How she touched my arm or back to correct my posture, her hands confident and warm. The rare full smile that transformed her entire face. I caught myself wondering about her life outside this space. Did she have a partner? What did she do on weekends? What made her laugh? These questions felt dangerous. I tried to maintain boundaries to keep things clinical, but every session pulled me deeper into something I didn't have a name for. It wasn't just attraction, though that was there, undeniable, a low hum beneath everything. It was the way she seemed to understand me without explanation, the way she could be both gentle and unflinching, the way she made me feel simultaneously exposed and safe. Several weeks in, I arrived agitated. A difficult mediation that afternoon had left me raw. I'd held it together through hours of negotiation, but barely. Claire took one look at me and said, "Talk." "I can't." "Yes, you can." "No, I mean I need to move. Can we just, whatever exercise you have planned, let's do it." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, we're going to dance." "What?" "Dance. Move without agenda. Let your body express what your words can't." She walked to a small speaker and started music. Something instrumental, building slowly. Then she began to move, nothing choreographed, just fluid motion, responding to the sound. I stood frozen, watching her. "Your turn," she said without stopping. "I don't dance." "You do today." "Claire, Vivian." She stopped, came close. Her eyes were searching. "You're so controlled all the time. Every word, every gesture measured. Just once, let yourself be uncontrolled. Let me see what happens when you stop performing." The challenge in her voice, the intensity of her focus, something in me broke open. I started to move. Awkwardly at first, self-conscious and stiff. But Claire kept moving beside me, not watching with judgment, but with encouragement. Gradually, I let the music dictate something, let my body respond without my mind's permission. I moved faster, harder. All the frustration from the day, from the breakup, from years of holding everything in, it poured out through my limbs. I must have looked ridiculous. I didn't care. Claire matched my energy, creating a kind of dialogue between us. When I spun, she was there. When I dropped low, she mirrored it. We weren't touching, but we might as well have been. The space between us felt charged, electric. The music built to a crescendo, and I let out a sound, half sob, half shout. Released something I'd been carrying so long I'd forgotten it had weight. When the song ended, I stood panting, my hair disheveled, my blouse damp with sweat. I felt cracked open, vulnerable, alive. Claire was breathing hard too, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "That," she said quietly, "is who you are when you're not afraid." We stared at each other across 3 feet of hardwood floor. The air felt thick, heavy with everything unsaid. I wanted to close that distance. I wanted to know what it would feel like to touch her when it wasn't part of an exercise. I wanted to taste the sweat on her collarbone. "I should go," I said abruptly. "Vivian." Same time Friday. I grabbed my bag and left before she could respond, before I could do something irreversible. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my expensive sheets in my temperature-controlled bedroom and replayed every moment. The way Claire had moved. The way she'd looked at me. That expression I couldn't decipher. Was I imagining this? Projecting my own desperate attraction onto someone who was simply doing her job? But I remembered the times our eyes had held a beat too long. The way her voice softened when she said my name. How her touch would linger just slightly beyond necessary. Or was that wishful thinking from someone so starved for connection she was inventing significance where none existed? I considered canceling Friday's session. Creating distance. Maybe switching to a different coach. The thought made my chest constrict. Friday came. I arrived early, pacing outside her building for 10 minutes before finally climbing the stairs. Claire opened the door in jeans and a thin sweater, her hair slightly damp. She'd been here a while. "Hi," she said. "Hi." We stood in the doorway. Something had shifted. We both felt it. "Come in." I followed her into the studio. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows, turning everything golden. She didn't move to her usual spot. Instead, she stood near the window, arms crossed, looking uncertain for the first time since I'd met her. "We need to talk," she said. My stomach dropped. "Okay." She stopped, started again. "What happened Tuesday?" "The way you moved, the way you let yourself open, it was a breakthrough. Real progress." She turned to face me fully. But I need to be honest with you about something. What? My voice came out smaller than I intended. This work we're doing, it requires me to witness you, to be present with you in intense ways. That's part of the methodology. She paused. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being just professional for me. And I need to acknowledge that before we go any further. The room tilted slightly. What are you saying? I'm saying I've developed feelings that aren't appropriate for a coach-client relationship. And I'm saying I should probably refer you to someone else because continuing to work with you while feeling this way isn't ethical. I couldn't breathe. You're ending this? I'm trying to do the right thing. The right thing. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Do you know what it took for me to come here? To let you see me like this? And now you're what? Protecting me from yourself. Vivian, I'm not fragile. I'm not some client who doesn't understand boundaries. I closed the distance between us. I know exactly what's happening here. I've known for weeks. I feel it too. Her jaw tightened. That doesn't make it less complicated. So let it be complicated. You came to me vulnerable in the wake of a breakup. The power dynamic. I'm not vulnerable anymore. The truth of it surprised me as I said it. Or maybe I am, but in a different way. You've helped me find something I thought I'd lost. Maybe I never had it to begin with. I took another step. We were very close now. But whatever this is between us, that has nothing to do with coaching. That's just us. Two people who see each other. Claire's breathing had quickened. Her eyes searched my face. If we cross this line, we can't go back. The work would be over. You'd need to find another coach. Then it's over. Vivian. Claire. I reached up, let my fingers brush her jaw. I don't want to coach anymore. I want you. For a suspended moment, neither of us moved. Then Claire's hand came up to cover mine, holding it against her face. I've wanted to kiss you, she whispered, since the third session. When you laughed at something I said and your whole face changed. You have no idea how beautiful you are when you forget to guard yourself. My heart was thunder. So kiss me. She did. Her mouth was soft and sure, her hands coming to frame my face with a tenderness that undid me. I made a sound against her lips, weeks of want condensing into this single point of contact. The kiss deepened. Her tongue traced my lower lip and I opened for her, tasting mint and something sweet. My hands found her waist, pulling her closer, needing to feel her body against mine. Claire's fingers threaded through my hair, angling my head for better access. The kiss was slow, thorough, each stroke deliberate. She kissed like she coached with complete presence, nothing held back. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against mine. This is reckless, she murmured. Good. You might regret it. I won't. How do you know? I pulled back enough to meet her eyes. Because for the first time in months, maybe years, I feel something other than numb. Because you've seen the worst parts of me and you're still here. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it's like to be human. Something in her expression crumbled. She kissed me again, harder this time, walking me backward until I hit the wall. Her body pressed along the length of mine, solid and warm. I arched into her, wanting more contact, more skin. My hands found the hem of her sweater. Can I? Yes. I pulled the fabric up and over her head. She wore a simple black bra underneath. Her skin was warm, muscles defined across her stomach and shoulders. I traced the line of her collarbone with my fingertips, feeling her shiver. You're stunning, I breathed. She smiled, but there was heat in it. Your turn. She unbuttoned my blouse slowly, maintaining eye contact. Each button revealing more skin felt like another layer of defense falling away. When the fabric slipped from my shoulders, I fought the urge to cover myself. Stay with me, Claire said softly, her hands coming to rest on my waist. Don't leave. I'm here. I know. I can feel you here. She kissed my shoulder, my collarbone, the hollow of my throat. Each touch was deliberate, worshipful. "You're so present right now. Do you feel it?" I did. My body was alive, every nerve ending attuned to her proximity. No planning ahead, no replaying the past. Just this, her mouth on my skin, her hands learning the geography of my body, the sound of our breathing in the quiet studio. She unhooked my bra and I let it fall. Her gaze traveled over me, appreciative and hungry. "Beautiful," she said simply. Then her mouth was on my breast and I gasped, my head falling back against the wall. She took her time, lavishing attention with lips and tongue until I was making sounds I didn't recognize as my own. My hands found her hair, holding her to me. "Claire, tell me what you need. You. All of you. Please." She lifted her head, eyes dark with desire. "Couch or floor? I don't care." We made it to the cushions in the corner, a tangle of limbs and desperate kisses. She laid me down, hovering above me, and the sight of her hair mussed, lips swollen, looking at me like I was something precious, made my breath catch. "Still okay?" she asked. "More than okay." She kissed me again as her hand traveled down my stomach, over my slacks. Even through the fabric, the pressure made me gasp. "These need to come off," she murmured against my mouth. I helped her, frantic now, needing less between us. When I was finally bare beneath her, vulnerable in every possible way, she sat back on her heels and just looked. "What?" I asked, suddenly self-conscious. "I'm memorizing this. You here, trusting me with this." Her hand traced up my inner thigh, making me tremble. "I don't take it lightly. I know." She leaned down, kissing me deeply as her fingers found me. I was already so ready, and when she touched me directly, I cried out into her mouth. "That's it," she encouraged. "Let me hear you." She built the pleasure slowly, learning what made me gasp, what made me arch, what made my nails dig into her shoulders. There was no rush, no race to finish. She was mapping me, listening to my body's responses with the same attention she'd brought to our sessions. When I was close, trembling on the edge, she shifted her weight and added another finger. The stretch, the fullness, it was too much and not enough and exactly what I needed. "Look at me," she said. I forced my eyes open, met her gaze, stayed with her. "There you are," she whispered. "Stay right here with me." The orgasm rolled through me in waves, my entire body surrendering to it. I held her gaze through all of it, letting her witness me completely undone. As I came down, shaking and breathless, she gathered me against her chest. Kissed my temple. Murmured things I only half heard, but felt entirely. When I could speak again, I said, "That was, I don't have words." She smiled against my hair. "Good. Words are overrated." We lay there as the light shifted outside, my head on her chest, her fingers tracing patterns on my back. I felt raw, exposed, perfect. "What happens now?" I asked eventually. "I don't know. We figure it out as we go." That's not very structured for a coach. Good thing I'm not your coach anymore. I lifted my head to look at her. "Are you sure about this?" "About us." She cupped my face, thumb stroking my cheek. "I'm not sure about anything except that I want to find out." "Is that enough?" "Yes." We did figure it out, though not without stumbling. The first few weeks were complicated. I needed a new coach, boundaries mattered, even if we'd already crossed them. Claire recommended someone, another woman whose approach was different but effective. I started seeing her on Wednesdays, but Tuesdays and Fridays were for Claire and me. No more studio, no more exercises. Just two people learning each other. She cooked dinner at her apartment, a small walk-up in the same neighborhood as the studio. We talked for hours, discovering the details we'd never had space for before. She'd grown up in Seattle, studied psychology and dance, had been married briefly in her 20s to a man before realizing that wasn't her truth. She'd been single for 2 years when we met, focused on building her practice. You were a surprise, she admitted one night over wine. I never mix work and personal. Never. What changed? You did. The way you showed up week after week, doing the hard work even when you hated it. Your courage looked like stubbornness on the surface, but underneath, she shook her head. I saw how badly you wanted to feel again, even though feeling meant hurting. That's not weakness. That's strength. I reached across the table for her hand. You helped me remember I was still alive in there. You did that yourself. I just held up a mirror. We slept together that night with more slowness, more exploration. Learned the sounds each other made, the places that sparked the hottest reactions. I discovered she was ticklish along her ribs, that she liked her hair pulled, that she'd gasp my name when I used my mouth between her legs. I also discovered what it felt like to be fully present during intimacy. With Rebecca, I'd often found my mind wandering, planning tomorrow's argument or replaying the day. With Claire, there was no elsewhere. Just her skin, her breath, her body responding to mine. You're here, she'd whisper sometimes, odd. Right here with me. Where else would I be? You know what I mean. I did. And she was right. For the first time, I wasn't performing connection. I was experiencing it. Not everything was smooth. 6 weeks into whatever we were calling this, I had a panic attack in her bed. We'd been intimate, and afterward, lying in her arms, something in me fractured. Don't apologize. What triggered it? I don't know. We were just lying here, and suddenly I felt trapped. Not by you, but by, I struggled for words. By how much I feel. How much I need this. You. It terrifies me. She held me tighter. That makes sense. You spent years protecting yourself by not needing anyone. This is different. Scarier. What if I mess this up? What if I can't do this? Then we deal with it together. But, Vivian, you're already doing it. You just let me see you panic. Let me help you through it. That's the work. That's trust. I cried then, finally. Great heaving sobs for everything I'd lost and everything I was risking by trying again. Claire held me through all of it, her presence steady and sure. When I was empty, wrung out, she kissed my forehead. You're allowed to be scared. Just don't let fear make your decisions. How do I know the difference? You ask yourself, am I running away from something real because it's hard? Or am I protecting myself from something harmful? She tilted my chin up. Only you can answer that. But I hope you'll choose what's real. I kissed her, tasting salt and tenderness. I'm choosing you. Then I'm the luckiest woman alive. 3 months in, my colleagues started noticing changes. You're different, Jordan observed one afternoon. We were prepping for trial, scattered files covering my desk. Calmer. Present. Is that criticism or observation? Observation. It's good. He smiled. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. What I was doing was unlearning decades of self-protection. With Claire, with my new coach, with myself. The work was ongoing, sometimes painful. But I was softer now. More accessible. When I walked into a room, I wasn't performing confidence. I was embodying it. The difference was subtle but profound. In court, I argued with the same precision but less aggression. I listened better. Connected with juries differently. My win rate actually improved. But the real changes were private. I laughed more easily. Cried when I needed to. Let myself want things not just professionally, but personally. Ice cream at midnight. Long walks with no destination. Quiet mornings in bed. Claire and I fell into a rhythm. Most nights we spent apart, maintaining some independence. But we'd text throughout the day, sharing small moments. She'd send photos of things that reminded her of me. A striking cloud formation, graffiti on a warehouse wall, a stranger's dog wearing a ridiculous sweater. I'd reply with voice notes when I could, telling her about a case or a frustration or just that I was thinking of her. The intimacy we'd found that first afternoon deepened. We learned each other's bodies the way some people learn languages, through practice, attention, delight. She'd wake me some mornings with kisses trailing down my spine. I'd surprise her in the shower, dropping to my knees on wet tile. But it wasn't just physical. We'd stay up late talking about art, politics, our childhoods. She'd read to me sometimes from books she loved. I'd tell her about cases, explaining the nuances of law in ways that made her eyes light up. "You're brilliant when you talk about your work," she said once. "The way your mind moves, it's beautiful." I've always just thought of it as necessary. Getting the job done. That's true. But you can love something and also recognize its beauty. They aren't mutually exclusive. It hadn't occurred to me that I might love my work. I'd seen it as armor, as validation, as proof of worth. But maybe it could be more than that. Maybe I could do what I was good at without using it as a shield. 5 months after that first kiss, Claire met Jordan for drinks. I was nervous. My work life and personal life colliding felt vulnerable in new ways. But they hit it off immediately, trading stories about dealing with my perfectionism. By the second round, Jordan was regaling her with tales from our early days working together. "She made me rewrite a brief 11 times once," he told her. 11. I thought I'd quit. "Why didn't you?" Claire asked. "Because on the 12th version, she said it was perfect." And she was right. She pushed me because she knew I could do better. He glanced at me. Plus, she bought me very expensive bourbon as an apology. I did not apologize. The bourbon apologized for you. Claire laughed, the sound filling something in my chest. Watching the two of them together, two people who knew me in different ways, appreciating each other, felt like integration. Like my life was becoming whole instead of compartmentalized. Later, walking home, Claire took my hand. "I like him. He clearly adores you. He's put up with me for years. That alone deserves recognition. You're easier to put up with than you think." She squeezed my fingers. "You just had to learn to put up with yourself first." I stopped walking, pulled her close. We were on a quiet street, trees overhead filtering the streetlight. "Thank you." For what? For seeing me. For pushing me. For not giving up when I wanted to run. She cupped my face, kissed me softly. "You did the real work, Vivian. I just stood witness. You did more than that." "Okay, I did more than that." She smiled against my lips. "But you had to choose it. Choose to open. Choose to risk. That was all you." We stood there under the trees, holding each other, and I felt something settle into place. Not perfection, I wasn't healed, wasn't finished becoming. But I was present. I was trying. I was allowing myself to be loved. That seemed like enough. Rebecca reached out on a random Tuesday. Her name appeared on my phone screen while I was in a settlement conference. My stomach clenched reflexively, muscle memory from months of missing her. I didn't read the message until that evening, sitting in my apartment. Claire was teaching a class and wouldn't be free until late. "Hey, I know it's been a while. I've been thinking about you. About us. Would you want to meet for coffee sometime? No pressure. Just, I miss you." I stared at the screen for 10 minutes. 6 months ago, this message would have destroyed me. I'd have said yes immediately, desperate for any crumb of her attention. I'd have rebuilt all my defenses, promised to be different, begged for another chance. Now, I just felt neutral. Maybe a little sad. I called Claire instead of texting back. "Hey," she answered, slightly breathless. "Class just ended. What's up?" Rebecca texted. A pause. "Oh, what did she say?" "She wants to meet. Said she misses me." "How do you feel about that?" I loved that she asked instead of telling me what to do. Confused. It doesn't hurt the way I expected. But I don't know what I want. "Do you want to see her?" "I think maybe I need to." For closure. To show her who I've become. I hesitated. Is that awful? Rebecca reached out on a random Tuesday. Her name appeared on my phone screen while I was in a settlement conference. My stomach clenched reflexively, muscle memory from months of missing her. I didn't read the message until that evening, sitting in my apartment. Claire was teaching a class and wouldn't be free until late. Hey, I know it's been a while. I've been thinking about you. About us. Would you want to meet for coffee sometime? No pressure. Just, I miss you. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes. 6 months ago, this message would have destroyed me. I'd have said yes immediately, desperate for any crumb of her attention. I'd have rebuilt all my defenses, promised to be different, begged for another chance. Now, I just felt neutral. Maybe a little sad. I called Claire instead of texting back. Hey, she answered, slightly breathless. Class just ended. What's up? Rebecca texted. A pause. Oh, what did she say? She wants to meet. Said she misses me. How do you feel about that? I loved that she asked instead of telling me what to do. Confused. It doesn't hurt the way I expected. But I don't know what I want. Do you want to see her? I think maybe I need to. For closure. To show her who I've become. I hesitated. Is that awful? No. It's human. I heard sounds of her packing up. Do you want me there? I can meet you after, or we can talk through it beforehand. I think I need to do this alone. But knowing you're there, that helps. Always. Let me know how it goes. After we hung up, I reread Rebecca's message. Then I typed a response. Sure. Thursday afternoon? There's a place near my office. Her reply came instantly. Perfect. See you then. Thursday arrived cold and bright. I dressed carefully, not trying to impress, but wanting to feel like myself. The self I'd become. Dark jeans, a burgundy sweater Claire had chosen, my favorite boots. Rebecca was already seated when I arrived at the small restaurant I'd suggested. She looked good, hair longer, skin tan like she'd been somewhere sunny. When she saw me, her face lit up with that familiar smile. Vivian. Hi. Rebecca. We hugged briefly, awkwardly, then sat across from each other at a table by the window. You look amazing, she said immediately. Different. Lighter somehow. Thanks. You look well too. We ordered drinks. Made small talk about work, mutual acquaintances, the weather. All the conversations of two people who used to know each other intimately and now didn't know how to bridge the gap. Finally, she leaned forward. I've been thinking about us a lot lately. About how things ended. Okay. I think I gave up too easily. We had something real, and I just walked away because it was hard. She reached across the table like she might take my hand, then thought better of it. I'm sorry. For quitting on us. I studied her face. Saw the sincerity there, the regret. Part of me felt vindicated. I'd been right that we'd had something worth fighting for. But a larger part felt distant. Like I was watching this conversation happen to someone else. I appreciate the apology, I said carefully. I think we both could have done things differently. So, is there a chance? Could we try again? And there it was. The question I'd fantasized about for months after she left. The reconciliation I dreamed of during countless sleepless nights. I took a breath. I don't think so. She blinked, surprised. Really? But I thought you'd want. 6 months ago, I would have said yes immediately. I'd have promised to be different, to be more available, to try harder. I met her gaze steadily. But I've learned some things since then. About myself. About what I need. What do you need? Someone who doesn't require me to be less, so they can feel like more. Someone who sees my walls and helps me lower them instead of complaining they exist. Someone who wants all of me, including the difficult parts. Rebecca looked stung. I wanted all of you. No, you wanted the version of me that was easy to love. When that version wasn't enough, when I couldn't maintain the performance, you left. I wasn't angry saying it. Just honest. And maybe you were right too. Maybe we weren't compatible. But either way, I'm different now. And I'm with someone who... I stopped realizing what I'd said. You're seeing someone. Not a question. Yes. That was fast. It wasn't planned. But yes, I'm seeing someone. Someone who's helped me become more myself, not less. Rebecca was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then she said, I'm happy for you. I mean that. Even if it stings a little. I know. Are you happy? I considered the question. Happiness still felt like too simple a word for what I'd found. But it was close enough. Yeah, I am. We finished our drinks. Talked a bit more, easier now that the expectation was gone. When we parted outside the restaurant, her hug lasted a beat longer. Take care of yourself, Vivian. You too. I watched her walk away, then pulled out my phone and texted Claire. Done. I'm okay. Can I come over? Her response was immediate. Already cooking. I'll open wine. I arrived at Claire's apartment an hour later. She met me at the door, searching my face. How was it? Surprisingly painless. I hung up my coat, kicked off my boots. She wanted to get back together. Claire stilled. And I said no. I watched relief wash over her features, followed immediately by guilt. I shouldn't be glad. Yes, you should. I'm glad too. I crossed to her, slid my arms around her waist. I spent months mourning something that was never quite right. And then I found something that is. Why would I go backward? She kissed me, deep and thorough. When we broke apart, she murmured, You're sure? I don't want to be a rebound or a... Claire, look at me. I waited until her eyes met mine. You're not a rebound. You're not a replacement. I searched for adequate words. You're the first person I've been with who makes me want to stay present, even when it's uncomfortable. Who sees my defenses and doesn't run, doesn't demand I drop them immediately, just patiently waits until I'm ready. You've never asked me to be anything other than exactly who I am. That's because who you are is extraordinary. I'm really not. To me, you are. She traced my jawline. When you walked into my studio 7 months ago, you were so armored. So determined not to need anything. And now look at you standing here, choosing vulnerability, choosing us. That's brave. That's beautiful. I kissed her again because words weren't sufficient. Led her to the bedroom because I needed to show her with my body what I couldn't quite articulate with language. We made love slowly, taking our time with each other. I mapped her skin with my hands and mouth, memorizing the sounds she made, the way she arched into my touch. When I was inside her, her eyes on mine, I felt completely, utterly present. No past, no future. Just this moment, this woman, this connection. Afterward, tangled together in her sheets, she said quietly, I love you. The words hung in the air. We'd been careful until now, neither of us wanting to say it first. But hearing it from her mouth felt inevitable. Right. I love you too, I replied. I think I have for a while. She smiled against my shoulder. How long? Remember that day we danced? When you told me to stop performing. Yeah, that day. When I looked at you and realized you'd seen me at my most unraveled and you were still here. Still looking at me like I mattered. You do matter. To me, she paused, emotional. You're everything. I held her tighter, feeling the words settle into my bones. This was what I'd been missing with Rebecca. Not passion, we'd had that. Not companionship, we'd had that too. But this bone-deep sense of being known. Chosen. Loved not despite my flaws, but inclusive of them. Move in with me, I said suddenly. Claire lifted her head, eyes wide. What? Move in with me. My apartment is bigger, and you're there half the time anyway. Unless you don't want to. I'm not trying to rush things, She kissed me, silencing my nervous rambling. Yes, 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 I'll move in with you. On one condition. What? You have to let me redecorate. Your place is beautiful, but so sterile. It needs life. I laughed. Deal. Claire moved in over the span of 3 weeks. Watching her belongings integrate with mine was surprisingly emotional. Her books filling my shelves. Her coffee mugs joining my minimalist collection. Her vibrant throw pillows disrupting my neutral couch. The studio she set up in my spare room, her space within our space. The apartment transformed from a showpiece into a home. We learned the rhythms of cohabitation, morning routines that overlapped and diverged. Who cooked breakfast, who cleaned up, how to navigate each other's moods and need for solitude. It wasn't always seamless. I had to resist the urge to control everything, to maintain my previous order. She had to remind me that mess was human, that living meant leaving traces. But we figured it out. One Sunday morning, I woke to find her gone from bed. I padded out to the living room and found her on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, reading. The early light streamed through the windows, catching the silver in her hair. She looked up and smiled. "Morning. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. Didn't want to wake you." She patted the couch beside her. "Come here." I settled against her, her arm coming around my shoulders. We sat in comfortable silence, her reading while I just existed beside her. This, I thought. This simple, domestic peace. This is what I'd been terrified of. This vulnerability of letting someone into every corner of my life. And it was the best thing I'd ever done. Work evolved too. With Claire's encouragement, I started taking on more pro bono cases, work that mattered beyond billable hours. I joined the board of a nonprofit supporting LGBTQ+ youth. Used my skills for something beyond profit. Jordan noticed immediately. "You're different again. Expanding. Is that good?" "It's great. You seem." He searched for words. Fulfilled. Not just successful, but actually satisfied. He was right. The armor I'd built my career inside, the need to win, to dominate, to prove myself constantly, had softened without disappearing. I was still excellent at my job, but the job no longer defined me entirely. Claire and I hosted a dinner party, our first as a couple in our shared space. Jordan came, along with some of Claire's friends from the dance community, a few colleagues I'd grown closer to. Watching her move through the room, talking and laughing with people I cared about, I felt something click into place. Integration. My worlds weren't separate anymore. I wasn't performing different versions of myself depending on context. There was just me, complex, imperfect, growing. Later, cleaning up together, Claire hip-checked me playfully at the sink. "Good party." It was. "Your friends are great." "Our friends," I corrected. She smiled. "Our friends." I dried my hands, turned to face her. "Thank you." For what this time? For teaching me that opening up doesn't mean losing myself. That I can be soft and still strong. Vulnerable and still competent. You taught yourself that. I just reflected what was already there. Always so humble. One of my many charms. She kissed my nose. "Want to know a secret?" "Always." "You've changed me too. Made me braver about wanting this, a partnership, a future. I'd convinced myself I was fine alone. But you showed me the difference between fine and fulfilled." "So we saved each other?" "No. We chose each other. That's different." She was right. This wasn't rescue or salvation. It was two people deciding every day to show up fully. To risk, to try, to stay present even when it was hard. 18 months after that first session, Claire and I went back to her studio. She didn't teach there anymore. She'd transitioned to working from our apartment, taking select clients remotely. But she'd kept the lease, using the space for workshops and retreats. We stood in the middle of the empty floor where I'd first tried to fall backward into her arms. Where we'd danced. Where everything had begun shifting. "Remember how terrified you were?" she asked. "I remember thinking you were asking the impossible." "And now?" I turned to face her. Now I know the impossible was staying closed. This, thus, was actually the easier path. Just took me a while to see it. She moved closer, taking my hands. "Dance with me." "Here? Now?" "There's no music." "We don't need music." So we danced in the silent studio, her leading, me following, both of us moving together through the space. It wasn't choreographed or graceful. It was just two bodies in conversation, learning the language they were inventing together. When we stopped, breathless and laughing, I said, "I want to marry you." Claire froze. "What?" "Not right now. Not tomorrow. But someday. I want to choose you every day for the rest of my life. Officially. Publicly. Permanently." Her eyes filled with tears. "Are you proposing?" "I'm stating my intention. When I actually propose, it'll be more romantic. Probably. If I can figure out how to be romantic." She laughed through tears. "You're already romantic. You just don't realize it. Is that a yes to my eventual future proposal?" "That's a yes to everything." She cupped my face. "Yes to marrying you. Yes to building a life together. Yes to every day, every challenge, every moment." We kissed in the middle of the empty studio, in the place where I'd first started learning what it meant to be present, to be seen, to be loved. The wedding happened 18 months later. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. Jordan officiated after getting ordained online. We exchanged vows we'd written ourselves, standing under an arch Jordan had helped me construct in our living room. When it was my turn to speak, I looked at Claire, my coach, my partner, my home, and said, "You once told me that the bravest thing I could do was let myself be seen. I didn't believe you. I thought bravery was armor, was never showing weakness, was controlling every outcome. But you taught me that real courage is showing up undefended, trusting someone else to hold you when you fall, choosing vulnerability every day even when it's terrifying." I paused, swallowing past emotion. "You saw me when I couldn't see myself. You held space for me to become who I actually am instead of who I thought I should be. And now I get to spend the rest of my life seeing you, holding you, choosing you. That's the greatest honor of my existence." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Claire's vows were equally beautiful, equally devastating. She spoke about witnessing my transformation, about falling in love with each layer I revealed, about feeling like the luckiest woman alive to be chosen by someone so extraordinary. When we kissed, our friends erupted in applause. Jordan was crying openly. Rebecca had sent flowers with a note that simply said, "Congratulations. I'm glad you found your person." I was glad too. 2 years into marriage, I stood in our bathroom watching Claire brush her teeth. She caught me staring in the mirror. "What?" she asked around the toothbrush. "Just looking at you." Creepy. Appreciative. She rinsed, turned to face me. "What are you appreciating?" "This. Us. The fact that I get to see you brush your teeth every night. That we argue about the correct way to load the dishwasher. That you leave your towel on the floor, and I've learned to find it endearing instead of infuriating. I don't leave, okay? Yes, I do." She smiled. "What's really going on? You've been reflective all week." I took her hand, led her to sit on the edge of the bathtub. "I saw Rebecca yesterday. She was at a conference I attended." "How was that?" "Fine." We talked briefly. "She's engaged apparently, to some tech executive. Seems happy." I paused. But what struck me was how little I felt. No regret, no what-ifs. Just genuine happiness for her and complete certainty that this, you and me, was exactly what I needed. Claire squeezed my hand. "You've come so far from the woman who walked into my studio that day." "We've come so far." "True." She pulled me closer. "You know what I love most about us?" "What?" "We're still doing the work. We didn't fall in love and then coast. We keep choosing to show up, to be honest, to stay present even when it's uncomfortable." She was right. We still had hard conversations. Still triggered each other occasionally. Still had to navigate differences and disappointments. But now I knew how. Now I had tools and willingness and a partner who was equally committed to the practice of staying connected. "I love you," I said simply. "I love you too." She stood, pulled me up with her. "Bed? Bed." We turned off the lights and climbed under covers, arranging ourselves into our familiar sleeping position, me on my back, her tucked against my side, her head on my shoulder. In the darkness, she murmured, "You know what?" "What?" "I'm proud of you, of who you've become." My throat tightened. "I couldn't have done it without you." "You could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to." I kissed the top of her head, breathing in her familiar scent. Cedar and home. Sleep came easily these days. No more lying awake cataloging failures or planning defenses. Just rest, deep and true, held by someone who knew every version of me and loved them all. 5 years after that first session, I gave a keynote speech at a legal conference about work-life balance and mental health in high-pressure careers. Standing at the podium, looking out at hundreds of attorneys in their professional armor, I spoke about breakdown and breakthrough, about the cost of invulnerability, about learning to be human in a profession that often rewards being a machine. I thought strength meant never needing anyone, I told them. I thought success required sacrifice of self. I built an impressive career on that foundation, and I nearly destroyed myself in the process. I talked about Rebecca leaving, about finding Claire, about the terrifying, necessary work of becoming whole. The irony is that opening up, allowing myself to be vulnerable, to need support, to admit I didn't have all the answers, made me better at my job. Not worse. Better. Because I could connect with clients authentically. Because I could listen without my defenses constantly activated. Because I stopped seeing every interaction as a battle to win. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. Afterward, a young associate approached me, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said. "I've been drowning for months, thinking I just needed to try harder. But maybe I need to try differently." "Maybe you do," I agreed. "And that's not weakness. That's wisdom." Claire was waiting in the back of the room. When I reached her, she wrapped me in a hug. "You were incredible," she whispered. "Learned from the best." We walked out of the conference center hand in hand into the afternoon sunlight. We had dinner reservations later, but for now, we just walked. No destination, no agenda. Just two people moving through the city together. "What are you thinking about?" Claire asked. "How different my life is now. How much has changed. Do you miss any of it?" "The old way." I considered the question honestly. Sometimes I miss the simplicity of being numb. It required less energy. But no, I wouldn't go back. Not for anything. Not even for the illusion of control. Especially not for that. Turns out control was just another word for loneliness. We stopped at a park bench, sat watching people pass by. A couple arguing quietly. A parent chasing a toddler. An elderly man feeding pigeons. All these small human moments I used to walk past without noticing. "Can I tell you something?" Claire said. "Always." When I first started coaching, I believed I was helping people find themselves. Some true, authentic self buried under conditioning and trauma. She laced her fingers through mine. "But you taught me it's more complex than that. We're not finding ourselves. We're creating ourselves constantly, choosing who we want to be in each moment." Is that what I did? That's what we both did. We chose each other, chose vulnerability, chose to build something neither of us had experienced before. She turned to look at me fully. And we keep choosing it. That's the real work. I leaned in and kissed her, soft and lingering. When we pulled apart, I said, "Best choice I ever made." "Second best," she corrected with a smile. "What was the first?" "Walking into my studio that day. Admitting you needed help. That took more courage than anything that came after." Maybe she was right. That first step, acknowledging I was lost, that my carefully constructed life wasn't working, had been the hardest. Everything else was just following through. 10 years after we met, we renewed our vows on a beach at sunset. Just the two of us this time, standing barefoot in the sand, speaking directly to each other without witnesses. We'd spent the week at a small rental house by the ocean, walking and talking and making love and just being together. On our last evening, we dressed in white linen and walked down to the water's edge. No officiant, no ceremony. Just us and our decade of choosing each other. 10 years ago, I said, holding both her hands, you saw something in me I couldn't see in myself. You believed I was capable of change when I'd given up on that possibility. You taught me that being seen isn't dangerous, it's essential. The sun was sinking behind us, painting everything gold and orange. These 10 years have been, I paused, searching for adequate words. They've been the realest thing I've ever experienced. The hardest and the best. You've witnessed my worst moments and loved me through them. You've celebrated my growth without taking credit for it. You've been my partner in the truest sense, walking beside me, not ahead or behind. Claire's eyes were wet, reflecting the sunset. I choose you, I continued. For the next 10 years and all the 10s after that. I choose vulnerability with you. I choose showing up imperfectly. I choose this messy, beautiful, terrifying practice of staying present. I choose us. She pulled me close, resting her forehead against mine. You know what you've given me? What? Permission to be fully myself. To stop performing wisdom and just be human. To need you as much as you need me. She kissed me softly. You think I saved you, but Vivian, you saved me right back. From loneliness disguised as independence. From believing I had to be everyone's guide and no one's equal. She stepped back, still holding my hands. I choose you too. Your brilliant, stubborn, tender, evolving self. I choose the woman you are right now and whoever you're becoming. I choose every conversation, every challenge, every ordinary morning. I choose this life we've built where being together is more important than being perfect. We stood there as the sun disappeared below the horizon, the sky turning purple and then dark. The waves rolled in, constant and sure. No one was watching. No one needed to document this moment. It was just for us. Later, back at the house, we sat on the porch with wine, wrapped in blankets, listening to the ocean. Do you ever wonder what your life would look like if I hadn't taken your consultation? Claire asked. Sometimes. But it feels like wondering what my life would be like if I'd been born someone else. This is who I am now. You're part of the foundation. That's a lot of responsibility. You handle it well. She laughed. We handle it well. Together. Yes, together. We finished our wine in comfortable silence. The kind of silence that comes from knowing someone so completely that words become optional. Not because there's nothing to say, but because everything's already been said in 1,000 small ways. When we went inside, Claire stopped in the doorway and turned to me. Thank you, she said. For what? For being brave enough to ask for help all those years ago. For trusting me with your transformation. For becoming this person who makes me better just by existing beside me. I pulled her close, buried my face in her neck. Thank you for catching me when I fell. And for teaching me how to catch myself. We made love that night with the windows open, ocean air moving through the room. Afterward, tangled together in unfamiliar sheets, Claire traced patterns on my skin. What are you thinking? I asked sleepily. That I'd do it all again. Every session, every conversation, every risk. I'd choose you in every lifetime. Even knowing how difficult I was at the beginning? Especially knowing that. The difficult parts made the breakthrough more meaningful. I captured her hand, brought it to my lips. I love you. More than I thought I could love anyone. I know. I feel it every day. She kissed my shoulder. Now sleep. We have an early flight tomorrow. Don't want to sleep. Want to stay in this moment. The moment will still be here tomorrow. We're not going anywhere. She was right. We weren't going anywhere. After years of running from feeling, from connection, from myself, I'd finally stopped. Found home in another person. Found home in myself. As sleep pulled me under, I thought about that woman who'd climbed 3 flights of stairs to Claire's studio a decade ago. So defended. So certain she could handle everything alone. So wrong about what she needed. I'd give anything to go back and tell her, it's okay to fall. Someone will catch you. And then you'll learn to catch yourself. And then you'll learn to fly. But she'd have to discover that on her own, the way we all do. Through risk and surrender and the terrifying practice of showing up exactly as we are. I pressed closer to Claire, her heartbeat steady beneath my ear. This was presence. This was home. This was love, not the performance of it, but the lived reality. Messy and imperfect and absolutely real. And it was everything.